Hello, my friends. Welcome to an extremely special episode of the Party Nerds Podcast. We are coming to you live from a triple secret location high in the Holly Woodland Hills area of Los Angeles. I'm Richard Gabai with my partner in crime, the great Robert Carradine, and today we have an iconic film star with us that we're so honored to welcome, Michael Biehn.
Thank you. That's very nice. But I when I walked in, and actually when you asked me to do this, I wanted to meet Robert, right off the bat, because when I was young and I moved to Los Angeles when I was about 19, and his family was, to me, like a dynasty, and it was all about the Carradines. And I had never had a chance to meet you or any of your brothers, but I did tell you that I met Keith a couple times walking around ICM,
right?
And he was sweet, but we didn't have a chance to work together,
right.
And we've never had a chance to work together, which surprises me because we're probably about the same age, and I would have loved to have worked on some of the stuff that you worked on. But I also, when I was a young man, maybe like 12, I would say, there were two television shows on that I just thought were like sent from heaven.
Uh-huh.
One was The Wild Wild West,
right,
and the other one was your brother's Kung Fu show.
Kung Fu was amazing.
That was just absolutely, like, stunningly. When I was a young man, I was just blown away by him playing that role.
Right.
I just thought he was just absolutely so wonderful. I went back recently and I watched a little bit of it just to kind of remind myself. This is like a week ago or so, and I turned, maybe it just pops up on my phone or something because it hears me talking about it. Or hears me talking about your name, know.
Okay.
So it pops up, and he's standing there, and there's like 5 or 6 Indians that like come up over this ridge, and they start shooting like arrows at him, and he's like snapping, like he's like taking them and snapping them, and like taking them and snapping them, like as they're shooting arrows at him, and I was like, I guess, when I was 12.
Oh yeah! Wow,
look what he's doing.
That's some badass action. And the beautiful thing about Bobby and the Carradines is that John, Bobby has told me this story that John Carradine's goal was to have an acting dynasty.
It
right?
was?
Yeah, and I mean, now that my daughter's acting and Keith's daughters are acting, the old man was like, I have created a dynasty.
Was your father a nice guy?
Yeah.
Did you guys get along good? And
We did. I didn't see him very much because he was always working all the time.
Yes, of
Try
course.
to keep the roof over our heads.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that because I have 5 boys, and my first one suffered a little bit more than the one I've got 2 living with me now, but because I was away shooting a lot, and just couldn't pull them out of school. But you guys were. I knew you right from me just showing up in town.
How did you go from coming here at 19 to the Terminator, which to me is one of the most iconic films I've ever seen in my life?
Well, first of all, when I got here, I know it's hard to believe, but when I was 18 or 19, I was a very pretty young boy. A very pretty young thing.
Hey, we saw you in Terminator, man.
You just said Christopher Atkins?
Yeah.
There's a pretty young boy.
Yeah, he was a pretty young boy. He was talking about Greg Gorman, who's a photographer that I've shot with before, and I also met on the movie that he did with the famous model, and they were like half naked on the beach the entire
Brooke
time.
Shields, Blue Lagoon, yeah.
Blue Lagoon, yeah. I met on Blue Lagoon. Thank God I didn't get it, but there's a lot of stuff.
He said they met 4,000 actors for that role.
Well, that I was 3,044 or something. And I liked the director, and I'd worked. I'd gone up. He directed Grease,
Right.
And the director had directed
Randall Kleiser.
Grease. What?
Randall Kleiser.
Randall Kleiser, yeah. And Randall had directed Grease, and I'd gone up and I had auditioned for the part that Lorenzo Lamas ended up playing in Grease. And I went up and I auditioned like 4 or 5 times, and They gave it to Lorenzo Lamas, and I think he and Alan Carr felt a little bit sorry for me, so they gave me a day's work.
Oh, that's sweet.
As an actor,
Yeah.
back then, like $700 for the day or whatever, and I
Yeah.
show up and I basically do extra stuff in it. But there's one point where John Travolta's character is trying to prove to Olivia Newton-John's character that he's a jock. And so he's wrestling, he's playing baseball, he's doing all this sort of stuff. And at one point he tries to play basketball, and I have the basketball and he punches me in the stomach, and that was my day on Grease. But going back to what you're talking about, and I've said this before, and it's just the truth, is that there were a lot of gay men in the industry when I was first got over here that were casting directors, agents, managers, producers, directors. And even though I'm not gay and never was, and all people that were in my life, like my longtime agent Ed Lamato, who handled Richard Gere and Mel Gibson and Denzel Washington and Michelle Pfeiffer and a lot of people like that. You know, I met him he just had Richard when I first met him. And you know, they all make a pass, and you basically said, like, that's not it, and I'm not into that.
I'm not like you.
Well, yeah, I'm not into that. But they still like to have me around.
Right.
And then I think because I was such a good, I was such a good-looking young boy. I started.
And a great actor.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely true.
Thank you. But I started off. My expectations when I came over here were nothing. Like if you had told me that I could be a model for 20 years and make $100,000 a year, I would have sold my soul for that. If you would have told me I could be on a soap opera for 30 years, I would have sold my soul. I came from Nebraska, I came from a small town, and just getting my Screen Actors Guild card was
That was a huge thing.
Huge thing. And then I would go out and I would do some, I got like an agent for modeling, not runway modeling, but what they call print modeling, which is like kids hanging around a car and stuff, And so I did a little bit of that, and I had an agent for commercials, and I didn't do very good with commercials, but I did 1 or 2, and then I got my Screen Actors Guild card, and then I started getting 1 and 2 lines on TV shows, and then I started working. This is going back, stuff that you'll know that your audiences, unless they're close to our age, aren't going to know, but they were kind of good shows back in the day. ABC Afternoon Special.
Okay.
You remember that? That
I
was
do,
a pretty
yes.
good show. Anyway, and then I did Movie of the Weeks, and I did a Movie of the Week. I did a Movie of the Week with Timothy Hutton and a lot of really good people.
So how did Terminator come in?
Well, I had already done a lot of work.
Right,
I've done more work than anybody else in that show.
Right.
Like more than
was like
Arnold, more than Linda. Did you do Tag?
Yeah.
You're with Linda, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, great, right?
Love her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Great
do
chick,
I.
man.
So do
Great
I.
chick.
I know. I love her too. But that was one of her credits. I
know,
remembered, and
yeah.
I remembered that you were in Tag also. And it was kind of a thing at the time. It was, Jim had seen me in a movie called The Fan. Which was my agent sent me the script, and I read it, and I was like, seems kind of, this was this just shows you the people. There are a lot of people around that will say, I read the Terminator. I knew. I read it. If you think of that movie in anybody else's hands, like a thing from the future comes back to kill a guy who comes from the future to want a girl that works at Bob's Big Boy. It just didn't. It didn't jump off the page to me as like, oh my God.
Right. You're like, what is this?
No, and nobody thought that movie. So, but I read it and I thought, well, I can play this character who is sort of this lean, mean fighting machine kind of guy, and that had a little love story in it. And I thought I could play this character and I'm not going to get hurt. I know I can do this. And if the rest of it is like really ridiculously stupid, which it would have been if Jim Cameron wasn't directing it,
right.
Yeah, you'd have come out all right.
Yeah.
No matter what.
The movie was bad, but Michael Biehn was cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's kind of what I felt. And Arnold was set. I wanted to work at that time with Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman, Jack Nicholson, Warren Beatty, De Niro. I mean, those are the people that I wanted to work with, and they're like. My friends are like, oh, I just got a movie, yeah, who's in it? Arnold Schwarzenegger. And they'd be like, huh. Yeah,
did you have to audition for that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I auditioned, and I think probably the best moment that ever happened for me as far as my career goes, and I think I was working a lot anyway, but as far as it changing my direction was that I did a very good audition for Jim. So he cast me in that, and then 2 years later he cast me in Aliens, and then 2 years later he cast me in The Abyss. And so, then I started getting offered stuff like Tombstone and The Rock. And
well, you became part of the Jim Cameron company.
Well,
like you remember John Ford had a company of actors that he worked with over and over? It's kind of like that.
I went down and spent a lot of time with Jim Cameron, and you don't have to spend a lot of time around Jim without you realizing instantly like there's something special about him. I've never known anybody in my life that works harder than him. He just is a machine and just works and works and works. And he's so talented and an artist and so passionate. And so I went down and I watched him with Stan Winston. Stan Winston, who went on to win many Academy Awards and ended up working with Spielberg a lot. He did Aliens. But I went down and I watched them talk about how they were going to shoot the Terminator. And I would see like the miniatures, and I would see like the face that would move around. And once I was around that situation, I thought, oh wow, I wanted to make Jim happy. That was my only goal. Was like I got to take this not only seriously, but this guy's got a vision. He's passionate about it. He cares about it. I want to make him happy. So I did everything I could.
It raises your game too, right? When you're around when you're around excellence, you strive for excellence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not that not too many of us that are blessed to work in the creative arts. We always give it. Most of the time, we give it all we got. But when there's someone that's raising the bar, you really want to.
Well, it's like if you're playing a friendly game of tennis and the guy you're playing is better than you, you play better.
I agree. Sports is exactly the same way. I think there's a lot of, when I think of sports, which I grew up in a sporting family, but sports and a crew are a lot the same. It's a group of people that all want a certain outcome, kind of this good outcome. Everybody's got a different position that they play, but every position is important.
Yep.
You learn to win, you learn to lose, you learn that there's always somebody better than you.
Filmmaking is a team sport, and I think our business is as competitive as professional sports.
There's something also I think about getting ready to shoot a shot. You ready? Actors ready? Okay. Sound good? Ready? Okay. We used to have film. We used to shoot on something called film.
We all did.
Yeah.
Roll out.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. We used to shoot on film. It was important not to be the one element of a shot that there was a problem with, because
Right.
you've got sound, you got the guy pulling focus, you've got
Hairs in the gate.
wardrobe, you've got you know
Yeah, you don't want to be the guy that
You
messed
don't-
up the shot.
that messes up the shot.
Yeah.
Well, I forgot my, like that. That just like that would, So I find a lot of similarities, and I have always enjoyed the camaraderie of a group of people that show up on a corner in downtown LA
Yeah.
and like take over that corner,
Yeah.
and you're there all night long, and then it's like a little community, and there's
The circus comes to
dozens
town.
of-
Yeah.
yeah.
And then the circus leaves.
And then
It's
the
like
circus
goes.
leaves.
big
Yeah.
vacuum, where it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. And then Terminator, of course, was a phenomenon. And you'd said you'd already been working all the time.
Here's the thing about the Terminator the Terminator, when it came out, was not in the top 25 movies box
Really?
office. No.
Really?
No.
Wow.
Because it was made for $6 million, and it made 40, so it did well, but Orion probably could have put it in more theaters, but that movie, I believe, really came alive when because of DVDs.
Oh,
Everybody
right.
had their DVDs,
Yeah.
but not that many people saw it in the theaters, and it wasn't like, oh my God, there's like this big hit. It was like there's no like Academy Award. There was like nothing. It was like a small movie that seemed to do very well, and people still didn't take Arnold seriously. And there were a lot of people back then that thought, I'm not going to go see Arnold Schwarzenegger in a movie. I mean, that just was the fact.
Well, for sure. It wasn't, I mean, as an audience member at the time, because in 1984, I was in college, and me and my buddies, we went to see that the first weekend, and the theater was packed. So, like, my perception is completely different. And also, like, looking at it as a businessman, if you make something for 6 and it does 40, it's a pretty big hit.
Yeah.
But, like, we ran to see it, and I know all my buddies that are here, we all ran to see it, and we were like, this movie's badass.
Oh, yeah.
I mean-
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it didn't stay in theaters very long. But I'm not. I mean, it did well. It was a hit, but
it's evergreen. I mean, it's like you said, DVD, and now it's on streaming. It's just a movie that everyone who's a fan is going to watch it every couple of years.
Yeah, and it did turn into what it turned into. It just didn't come out of the gate like Ghostbusters was the #1 movie that year. Karate Kid came out that year. Those
Right.
movies were like making
Yeah.
loads and like $100,
sure.
$200 million.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So, and there were a number of movies, and I think Terminator came in 23rd.
Yeah, and Terminator
So-
was like an indie.
Yeah, and I thought, listen, I was pleased, very, very pleased about it, and I had this agent, Ed LaMotta, who I mentioned earlier, and Ed loved the movie, and Ed wanted to help Jim and Gail Hurd, who was eventually his wife and his producing partner for the first 3 big movies, and so he put together what they call the industry screening, because he wanted agents, he wanted
See what's up.
He wanted everybody, any studio people, to see this movie. And I went to that screening, and when that movie starts, and it's in the future, and that like tanks or whatever are kind of rolling over heads, skulls, and stuff like that, people were laughing. And people were laughing
Because of
during the for the wrong reasons, thinking,
Right, right, yeah,
look
that's
at
what I was
this
gonna say,
stupid
'cause
shit. Look
Arnold
at
and,
yeah, this is and that screening. Even the people that were really, really good, I just don't think they got. It's a little bit the same thing with me with Tombstone. Tombstone came out, nobody cared.
Yeah, well, I
Nobody-
remember that was not a big hit, and
Not a big hit. Nobody cared. Got bad reviews.
Boy, it's evergreen now.
Well, now.
And
Oh, yeah.
we made I got to direct a Western, and Stephen Lang was in it with Bobby.
Oh wow.
And we had an
great
absolute
Stephen
blast.
Lang.
Yeah.
Yes.
And,
Wonderful. Absolutely.
He's
yeah.
amazing. And
It was amazing in Tombstone.
yes. And so your gun tricks
Yeah.
in Tombstone.
That's Del Reed. right?
Was that
He
you?
taught you, right?
Well, Phil taught me. Yeah, he taught me a little bit about spinning a gun. One of the things that he taught me was that you could spin a gun sideways, like this.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and he also taught me, first of all, my gun was weighted, and it was kind of sanded down so it didn't cut up my hands. They're heavy, and they can fly out of your hands when you're playing around with them and stuff.
Hit yourself in the
but
toe
he
and it
taught
would
me to
hurt.
bring it up. When I pull on Val originally, I bring it up, I flip it and cock it at the same time. So I'm turning it and cocking it. I put it back in, back up, turn it and cock it. So there was a lot of small things like that about that routine, which I could do. And it was a little bit like, and Thel helped me, but I put that routine together and I could do that routine. It's a little bit like a gymnastics routine. You could, 1 out of every 10 tries, stick the landing.
Yeah, right.
Twice, you know, but
Totally get
there
it.
was a lot to it that, you know,
Right.
sometimes, like I said, the gun's heavy and it can just fly out of your hands. And if there's somebody around, you know, it's like throwing a lead weight at somebody. So,
So whenever you're doing the gun shit, right, the crew is like,
well, they didn't know sort of what I knew. And I had a little bit of a problem when we shot, just because we were under the lights and my hand was sweating a lot. And
that's not good.
But by the time you're shooting, you know, you do this take, you do this take, you do this, you can do this 4 times. You know, I don't have to do it perfectly because
There's
we've
cuts.
got 4 cameras shooting it, not the same time back then,
Right.
but we have 30 shots of that day's work between me and
Right,
Val.
so they just put together the routine the way you meant it to be, but maybe something happened.
Yeah. And they can cut around any mistake that I made, but yeah. But I could do that routine. It was just, you know, like once or twice out of every 10 tries, I'd get it just right.
That's why we
to my satisfaction.
Right.
Other people might not notice that when I bring it up and flip it, they might not notice that I don't cock it, you know.
Right.
But anyway.
And on a movie like that, I can only imagine because I've been blessed to make a bunch of independent films, but none of them are longer than like 3-week shoots. I can only imagine the relationships that got built on a movie like that
Well,
with Val Kilmer and all those guys.
Did you guys actually shoot at Tombstone?
no, we shot in Mescal. You
Oh,
know
Mescal, yes,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
the
yeah.
movie ranch.
Mescal is in between Tombstone and Tucson. And it's an old movie studio. You probably shot there. Your brothers, your father's probably shot
He
there.
probably did.
I bet he did
Yeah, I never
because they had
did.
John Wayne and all those people. And then a company would come. They shot The Quick and the Dead there. A company would come in, change a few things around, and that's where we shot it. That movie was it was written by a guy named Kevin Jarre. And Kevin Jarre wrote Glory, a great writer, and he was going to write and direct this. And they let him shoot for 4 weeks, and then they fired him. So 4 weeks of work on a, you know, what normally would have been a 12-week shoot or something, maybe, you know,
Big chunk
4
of time.
weeks.
Wow.
They fired him. And we had 160 page script, 40 page script. And when they brought in the new director, a guy named George Cosmatos, they had to start cutting stuff out of this, ripping pages basically out of the script because
Right,
we
'cause
just
of time,
we
right?
weren't going to have time.
Right.
So a lot of scenes that we were in, the Cowboys, I always felt got hurt a lot worse than the Earps and Doc's character, but the women, a lot of the women's stuff got cut out. It was it was supposed to be 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Well, did they reshoot the 4 weeks that the guy that got fired shot? Did they cut that?
They didn't use any of his stuff. I
None of it.
had a scene I did with him,
Yeah.
the original director, with Charlton Heston. Okay, and Charlton Heston. If you watch the movie, you barely see him because the week he worked he shot with Kevin. And I have a scene where I'm looking for Wyatt and Doc, and that's when Doc's sick, and we think, oh, Wyatt's going to come out and have to face Johnny Ringo, and I come up and they're hiding at his place, at Hooker's place, and so I had this great scene with Charlton Heston, like nose to nose.
Oh, man.
Know? He's taller than me, but still.
Nevertheless,
it was like, yeah.
Wow.
And, it's not there. It's just not in the movie.
Well, they could have kept that.
I know they could have. But here's the thing. You just...
it's a great film.
Great film.
It turned out to be a movie that over a 10-year period of time, people started appreciating. And then it would start showing up on different television stations, and then it would be on, they played it on the music station, and it ended up, people saw that over almost now a 35-year period. Now people talk about it in the same sentences they talk about The Unforgiven. And
right. Sure.
I'm in it. Would never put that in the same class as that movie, but people do, and people talk about it. And the older we get, the further that we get away. Paxton's gone now. Bill Paxton's gone. Yeah. Powers Booth is gone now.
Yeah,
Charlton Heston is gone. But also, we just lost Val.
Yeah.
So, I can guarantee you, once me and Kurt and Steve, once we're gone, it'll just be like even more important.
Let's not look forward to that.
No. But it's great that you guys got a chance to work with Steven, who I absolutely adore. And Steven, everybody's great in that movie, but Steven took that character, and I'm sure they used every frame they shot of him. He was just
well, having been blessed to shoot a movie with him, there are no bad frames.
No, he's
right. Yeah.
But you know how you're talking about replacing the director?
Yeah.
I was on this film called Monty Walsh with my brother Keith and Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
And we're about 4 days in, and we're up on a hilltop looking down on this 20 horse herd of horses. And the director says, it's a big deal, 20 horses, to hold them all there and then get the wranglers out of the shot.
Of course.
And the director says, can you have them move the horses 2 feet to the left? And Selleck goes, why don't you just move the camera 1 inch to the right? Pretty good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, jumping back to the Jim Cameron stuff, so Aliens was like a much bigger budget, right?
Well, Aliens was, it was made for $20 million, okay?
Which was a ton of money at that time, right? Not really?
Not necessarily. 20 million was pretty tight for what Jim...
For what he did,
Yeah,
right,
Jim doesn't waste any money. He didn't waste... Actually, I wasn't even cast in that movie. James Remar was cast in the role because he had done The Warriors with...
Walter Hill.
With Walter,
yeah,
your guy. And, who I always wanted to work with. I loved Walter, and I kept going up for stuff, and he never cast me, but
we'll have to talk to him about that.
Yeah.
Still, he made a movie made a little Western for a friend of mine a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Dead for a Dollar.
Dead for a Dollar, and we reunited the Carradines and now the late, great Peter Jason. And,
yes.
And came to the screening and reunited with Walter.
Yeah, it was great.
Maybe he's got another one in him. Hey, Walter. Michael Biehn.
Yeah, man. One more, Walter.
I have a podcast which is called Just Fooling About, which is a line that Johnny Ringo says. I'm standing there waiting for Wyatt Earp to show up, and Doc Holliday steps out of the shadows. And he says, "Oh, Johnny Ringo, looks like somebody walked over your grave." And I said, "The fight's not with you, Holliday." He goes, "I beg to differ. You started a fight when you didn't finish." And that's when I was drunk in the streets and I was yelling at everybody. And I say, I was just fooling about. And then that's the name of my podcast now. And then he says, I wasn't, now I got the law. And then Johnny Ringo realizes at that moment, oh, you want to fucking go now? All right, brother, motherfucker, let's go. Let's do it. Let's, kind of have a boring day anyway, so let's fucking have some fun, yeah. And he ends up getting killed. But here's the thing about that scene, which is that and the scene where I'm twirling the gun and we're speaking Latin are the two kind of most interesting scenes in the movie, I think. Maybe I'm just talking about myself, but the scene that we shot was shot second. That scene where he comes out, I'll be your Huckleberry, second unit. Okay, so the director and the crew was gone, and it was me, William Fraker. Have you ever worked with Fraker?
No, I haven't, but I sure admire his work.
Fantastic DP.
Yeah.
All right, so DP. I don't think he held his own camera, so he probably had a camera operator out there. There would have been a sound guy out there, and maybe the third or fourth wardrobe and hair person just to make sure.
Yeah.
So, and that was me and Val. And Val and I had gone out the day before and rehearsed that scene and decided instead of doing a gunfight where he's 10 paces away and that whole thing, that we would just be like right next to each other and we'd be circling each other. So we had it blocked out. So they just shot it, but it was second unit. That's the most exciting, most iconic scene in the movie,
and
was
quoted.
shot second unit by 7 people probably, And George Cosmatos was nowhere around. Yeah, I never got along with George. Nobody, George was just
A dick?
No, he was like...
Bobby, I love you.
He was loud and if you were underneath him on the, like if you were above him on like the feed, like he tried to treat me great, Val, Kurt, Sam, but if you were underneath him, like he treated people poorly. And he would say things like, tell the extra with the big tits to take 2 steps, and...
That's rude.
Yeah, I mean
Bobby usually say the big-breasted extra.
No, I say the extra that's well endowed.
That's another thing that we all talk about. Like, since we don't dig ditches for a living unless you're actually digging a ditch in a movie, being kind and realizing that everyone's as important as anybody else is important on set.
Absolutely.
I've heard that that actually, like Jeff Murphy, our post guy and editor, like his favorite movie of all time is The Abyss.
Yeah.
We've heard that was like the toughest shoot ever, or the most complicated shoot.
I'll tell you who it was tough on. Jim Cameron, for one thing, who wrote it, and they decided, well, where are we going to shoot it? Oh, we're finding this nuclear plant that's been disbanded and filled full of 1 million gallons of water, and shoot underwater. I mean, it's almost like, how can I make a movie that's more difficult than that? So I found Jim, to be under a lot. The safety divers were under a lot. Al Giddings, who did the lighting for it, was under a lot. And so when you're down at 30 feet and you're down there for 10 hours, you can't just come straight to the top.
Oh yeah, you'll get the bends. That's
you get
too
the
long.
bends,
I
right?
did my diver's license.
So I was shooting one day on that movie, and I was not privy to any problems that on that movie. It was a difficult movie to make, but it seemed to me it was difficult. I had fun. I just, I'd go down. I didn't have scuba gear on. I had a hat, and you fill up your oxygen, and you're on your own. You're kind of bouncing around like you're on the moon. You have these like heavy, like deep, dark things on. But I was down once, and I was down for a long time. I never had to hang off the line, but I had put in a day, And another thing that a lot of people don't realize about the movie business is always a 12-hour day. Yeah. Always a 12-hour day, and usually that can turn. And you have to get to the location to shoot 12 hours and then go home.
Right.
So and that 12 can easily turn into 13 and 14 and 15 on Fridays, and as you guys
20.
both know. Yeah. They used to call the last shot the martini.
Right.
Exactly.
Because everybody would come out.
I still do.
And,
Does that mean I'm in trouble?
Yeah.
the martinis would start coming out, and everybody would start drinking.
But also you had the Abbey Singer, which was right before the martini.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I never saw martinis come out, but we still called it the martini.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the whole situation, and I'm sure you feel the same way. It's just like, what a great business, how fun it is. I've been lucky enough not to work with, Lauren Bacall was not a very nice person, but other than that, like, I've just like been very lucky, always worked with great people who worked hard, and you know, because I work with Jim Cameron, then I get to work with Robert Rodriguez, and then I get to work with Quentin Tarantino. So I spent, when I did Grindhouse, I spent 4 months sitting like this. You're Robert Rodriguez, you're Quentin Tarantino, and
you're just hanging out.
I'm in the middle, and we're just hanging out for 4 months.
That's so cool, man.
So I've been very blessed as far as you know, getting to hang out with really, really interesting and talented people.
And every now and then you hang out with me and Bobby.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm really excited about meeting Bobby, just because you like kind of been in the back of my head since you did. Was it Cowboys?
Yeah.
When you were the kid?
Yeah.
And you know, when I was a kid, I wanted to be like
those
like
kids.
you,
yeah,
like that group. You know, how come? You know, I wasn't in that.
I always remind Bobby. I say, you are Bobby fucking Carradine. Don't forget that.
Which
right?
I always do.
He always forgets that. I was like, no. Yeah,
Well,
because we all get kind of.
I'm just trying to beat the parking tickets.
Yeah.
And then you obviously you've never stopped working, and you know you did Walking Dead, The Mandalorian, just modern TV stuff.
I've got the one that I said that I was in New Mexico for. There's a director named Adam Wingard.
Okay.
And Adam directed the last 2 Godzilla versus King Kongs. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they both made $500 million. So between the 2, they made $1 billion.
Wow.
Now they're doing another one, and I on this, and Dan Stevens is working on that. Do you know Dan Stevens, the actor? No. Wonderful actor. So Adam, they wanted him to do another one, and he's like, you know, I've had enough of King Kong, and I'm going to go do my own thing. So he wrote a movie called Onslaught, and action, horror, you know, reminds me of like a lot of the Terminator. And he's a very, very talented director, and it's got a great cast, including Dan Stevens, who I'm like, there's so much content and so many people out there that I don't know. It doesn't surprise me, but Dan's worked with some really, really outstanding people, and, you know, played, you know, Shakespeare and back in the theater in London and stuff, and he was great to work with. And it's an A24 movie, so
nice.
Everybody wants to be in an A24 movie, or I've wanted to be in an A24 movie for the last 4 or 5 years, and so
that's
we'll
a camp
see.
You want to be in.
It is,
because they make good stuff.
It is, you know, but A24 started off as sort of a small company, and they were making $5 and $6 million movies and winning Academy Awards,
quality,
and
quality.
You know, when you go from funding and releasing 5 movies, 3 or 4 movies a year, 5 movies a year, to 35 movies a year, I would think there would be some growing pains, but. Anyway, we don't have a date of when Adams comes out, but I certainly enjoyed working on it. And
so you guys already shot it? I thought that was coming up.
No, we shot it. Yeah.
May the 3 of us be together on set soon. That would be freaking awesome.
It would be awesome.
But I know you've got to hop because you've got to jump on your podcast, Just Fooling Around with Michael Biehn. So on that note, I can't thank you enough for joining me and Bobby. Great to meet you in person.
Michael,
and we'll see you again soon.
To meet you, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, the great Michael Biehn.